It was Christmas Day, 1989. In a cold military base in Romania, two people were forced to stand against a wall. Moments later, soldiers shot them. A camera filmed everything. The video shocked the world. These people were not just criminals. They were Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu, the leaders of Romania. For many years, they ruled the country with fear and strict control. Most people know Nicolae, but his wife Elena was just as powerful, maybe even more. She was his closest advisor and helped him make many of the country's cruel decisions. She told the world she was a famous scientist and a caring mother of the nation, but to most Romanians, she was cold, heartless, and dangerous. Her death, fast and violent, was a big moment in Romanian history. But who was Elena Ceausescu, and how did she end up here? Elena Ceausescu was born in a small village in Romania in 1916. She came from a poor family and had little education. When she was still a teenager, she moved to the capital, Bucharest, to find work. There, she joined the Communist Party and met a young man named Nicolae Ceausescu. The two got married, and as Nicolae rose through the ranks of the communist government, Elena followed closely beside him. In 1965, Nicolae became the leader of Romania. Over time, Elena gained more and more power too. Under their rule, life in Romania became very hard. People had little food, the secret police watched everything, and freedom of speech was gone. The country was full of fear and poverty. At the same time, the Ceausescus lived like royalty. They had big houses, luxury cars, and traveled the world. Elena started calling herself a scientist, even though she never finished school. She claimed to be an expert in chemistry and became the head of many research programs, but it was all fake. The people were suffering, and they blamed both Nicolae and Elena. Elena Ceausescu didn't want to be seen as just the wife of a leader. She wanted power, fame, and respect. So the government helped create a false image of her. They said she was a brilliant scientist, a smart politician, and a caring mother to the Romanian people. But none of it was true. Elena never finished school, and she struggled to write and speak clearly. Still, she was given many awards and titles. She was even called Dr. Engineer and made the head of scientific institutions. Her name was placed on chemistry research papers, even though she didn't write them. People in the government were afraid to say no to her. If someone questioned her work or gave her bad news, they could lose their job, or worse. Ministers and scientists pretended to admire her, but many secretly hated her. Elena was also heavily involved in making decisions. She helped plan strict rules for everyday life. She supported terrible ideas like the systematization program, where whole villages were destroyed to build new towns. And she pushed for tough rules on women, like banning birth control and abortion, which led to thousands of unwanted children placed in orphanages. Behind closed doors, Elena was known for being angry, cruel, and cold. She didn't care about the suffering of the people. She cared only about power. By the late 1980s, life in Romania was getting worse and worse. People stood in long lines for food. They had no heat in winter, no freedom, and no hope. Many were angry, but too scared to speak out. That changed in December 1989. In the city of Timișoara, people began to protest. At first, it was a small group, but then it grew. The government sent soldiers to stop them, and some people were killed. Instead of scaring the public, it made them even more furious. Within days, protests spread across the country. Crowds shouted, "Down with Ceausescu," in the streets. The military, once loyal to the Ceausescus, began to turn against them. On December 22nd, Nicolae and Elena tried to escape by helicopter, but the army caught them just a few hours later. They were brought to a military base and kept under guard. The people didn't want a long trial. They wanted justice, and they wanted it fast. A special military court was quickly set up. Soldiers, judges, and prosecutors arrived. The world watched closely, but the trial would be short, emotional, and chaotic. Elena was angry. She yelled at the soldiers and refused to answer questions. She and Nicolae claimed they were still the true leaders of Romania, but no one believed them anymore. Their time was over. On December 25, 1989, just 3 days after their capture, Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu were put on trial. It lasted only 55 minutes. The courtroom was a small room inside a military base. A few soldiers stood guard. The judges and prosecutors read out loud a list of crimes: genocide for the deaths of over 60,000 people, destruction of the economy, stealing money from the country, using the army to kill civilians, trying to run away with stolen goods. Elena refused to recognize the court. She shouted at the prosecutors, saying, "I will not answer to anyone except the Great National Assembly." She called the trial illegal and screamed that the soldiers were traitors. Nicolae acted the same way. He kept saying he was still the president and that only Parliament could remove him. He tried to stay calm, but it was clear. Both he and Elena knew they would not leave alive. They were not given a real defense. 2 army lawyers tried to help them, but they were clearly under pressure. No one argued seriously for their innocence. The judges found them guilty on all charges. The sentence, death by firing squad, immediately. Elena began shouting, "No, no, no, you can't do this." Nicolae tried to calm her, but soldiers were already taking them outside. The execution would happen within minutes. There were no appeals, no delays. Justice, or revenge, was coming fast. Just minutes after the verdict, Nicolae and Elena were taken outside into a cold, empty courtyard. Soldiers stood waiting with rifles. A camera crew had been ordered to film everything, to prove the execution really happened. Elena was visibly distraught. She held tightly onto Nicolae, refusing to let go. The two insisted on staying together in their final moments, and the soldiers allowed it. There was no blindfold, no final meal, no priest, just a wall, a cold wind, and 2 people who once ruled a country now facing their final seconds. The soldiers tied their hands. Nicolae began singing a line from the communist anthem, but he never finished it. A loud command was given. The rifles fired all at once. Elena and Nicolae were shot so many times, their bodies fell quickly. The video of the execution was shown on TV across Romania, and later around the world. People watched in shock. Some cried, others cheered. For many Romanians, it was the end of a nightmare. The people who had caused them so much pain were finally gone. But others asked, was it justice, or was it just a fast, angry revenge? The trial had no real defense, and the sentence was carried out immediately. Even though the crimes were real, the way it all happened felt rushed. Still, one thing was certain. Elena Ceausescu's power ended the moment those bullets were fired. After the execution, Romania tried to rebuild. The fear that once controlled the country began to fade. People could speak freely again. But many questions remained. Elena Ceausescu had gone from mother of the nation to one of the most hated women in Romanian history. Some believed she got what she deserved. Others felt the trial was rushed, more like revenge than justice. Today, Elena is remembered not for her fake science or wealth, but for her cruelty. Her end was just as cold as the regime she helped build. From fake science to a firing squad, Elena's fall was brutal. Like and subscribe for more dark stories from history.